Good morning. Hey, it's Stacy, and we are Loving My Veteran, and this is Walking in My Shoes. How is everyone this morning? Get something to drink because you know me and my coffee are my drinks this hour of the morning. I'm going to give people just a minute or two, kind of talk about where we've been and what we're doing. Last week we discussed boundaries, and again today I'll have the rest of those videos on. I'm on the road with my amazing veteran Carl as he's working this morning and brings me along, as he says, to kind of sit here. He says look beautiful, but that doesn't happen necessarily. So today we are going to really kind of talk about who we are. We get so lost in who we are that it becomes tough to be anything but what's predefined. And you know, every week I say, oh, this is the hardest one I've done. This is the hardest one I've done. I will say that walking in my shoes has been soul searching, empowering for me, because it's really made me think about a lot of things. So let's kind of talk about who I am and who we are, and that'll kind of define what we were. On September 1st in 1966, yay, it tells you how old I am, that was the very first piece of paper that defined who I was. At 1 something in the afternoon, I was defined as Baby Girl Hicks. At that moment, I was instantly loved. I had no official names. I had no accomplishments, no titles. I was a screaming, wet, naked baby, and I was loved. I had a chance to do anything. I hadn't had a chance to do anything. I didn't even barely took my first breath. I had made no mistakes. I had no major accomplishments. I had done nothing but maybe pee on the labor and delivery nurse. But it was also at that moment that I became a daughter. I became a granddaughter, a great-granddaughter. I became a niece. So at the moment of my birth, it was defined as who I was in that life. You know, I couldn't crawl, I couldn't sit up, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything. But my life in other people's eyes was already defined for me. They already had expectations. What was I supposed to be? Hi, ladies. What was I supposed to be? I mean, I couldn't even pick out what clothes looked best on me. Thank God my mother wasn't a pink person. You know, everything I was supposed to be, every dream was already defined for me at the moment I was born. Somebody had an expectation of me that moment that I was born. My mother, God love her, she is the greatest human being on this planet. I will tell you that again. Hey, Natalie. She had been told by Dr. Spock, and not the kind out of Star Trek, for those of you who don't get the Dr. Spock thing. Dr. Spock years ago wrote books about how to raise your baby. So Dr. Spock advised my mom on what she had to do. Not only did my mother have Dr. Spock, she had my Nana. My Nana was a firm believer that you had to be on a schedule, that bottles had to be washed at a certain time. She even checked to make sure as I started wearing shoes that my mama washed my shoelaces and hung them out on the front porch rail. Okay, so imagine that. So somebody was always there making sure that it was done right, and there were these expectations, and somebody always told her what to do. You know, we join support groups and we Google. Google is like, it's a great thing, but I also think it is horribly detrimental. But we join support groups and people are always telling us what we should do. We go looking for advice. So it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do today? Well, if this is going on, you need to do this or you need to do that. And we Google all of this stuff and we get all of these answers. Thank God my mama did not have Google, because my Nana was better than any Google, at least in my Nana's eyes. You know, that's just, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of looking at the notes so I don't get too off track. You know, a few weeks after I was born, my mama, my mom's mom, flew in and stayed for a few weeks. And then, of course, the rules were different. They were, you raised Stacy according to Mima. And that's kind of how we get in our life. No matter where we are, there's always this expectation of who we're supposed to be. You know, back in 1966, there was no such thing as skin on skin. The only time I was naked was when I got a bath or when my mama changed my clothes. They didn't give me, you didn't lay up on your mom naked and have skin-to-skin contact. In 1966, less than 20% of Americans breastfed, so it was bottle feeding. You know, my Nana would pop in on my mother. I can remember my mama and my Nana tell me the stories at 8 o'clock in the morning. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, there were these expectations that my mother should have fed me, changed my clothes. God forbid I'd be in my little PJs, my little night dress. The bottles should have been washed. The kitchen should have been picked up. The vacuum cleaner should have been ran. Can you imagine 8 o'clock in the morning? I don't have kids at home anymore. 8 o'clock in the morning, you come to my house, I might still be in my 90. I mean, you just, these expectations were so high. You know, in 1970, my mother managed to have raised me and my brother, and for the first time, she could do it without somebody else telling her what to do. In 1970, my parents moved from Virginia, where I was born and raised. They moved, I know, right? They even moved to Idaho. So my grandmother wasn't sitting right there telling my mom what to do. But then I got a little older and I went to school. And even in kindergarten, I was defined as who I was based on smiley faces, straight faces, and sad faces. I got them on my papers. I got them on my report card. I got all these little things. If you talk too much, you got a sad face. If you didn't talk enough, you got a straight face. And if you talk just right, you got a smiley face. But who defined that for us? Who made that decision on what was right for us? It was right for the norm, but it wasn't necessarily right for us. Who made that rule? Who makes that rule in our life today? Who sets those standards on what a good wife is, what a good spouse is, what a good mother is? Who makes those expectations on us? We let society do it. We let Google do it. We let Facebook do it. We let our friends do it. We let support groups do it. We let our parents do it. We let our husbands do it. We let everybody else define who we are. You know, I felt like everything I was defined and I was put in a box, and it either had a smiley face, a straight face, or a sad face. And I don't think sometimes we realize what that does to us as human beings. You know, where there should be certain expectations. My life changed again in 1976 when we moved back to Virginia. I was raised the rest of my life from 10 years old on in the same county, in the same town that my parents were raised in. My daddy was born and raised there. My mom was transplanted there. My grandparents grew up there. So my daddy was captain of the football team. My mom was captain of the cheerleaders in Miss York County. And so there were expectations that Stacy should do the same thing. Even in elementary school, I was a rec league cheerleader. From the time I was in elementary school at 10 years old, I was taught to clap my hands a certain way, to project a certain image. It was defined for me by my grandparents, not so much my mom, but by my grandparents and my teachers. A lot of my teachers were my parents' friends. So it was defined for me what those expectations were. I was definitely going to be the next captain of the cheerleaders. I didn't want to cheerlead. I loved art. Art became my passion. Writing became my passion. Drawing became my passion. Drama became my passion. but I didn't fit into that norm. I didn't fit into that normal. I wasn't on that box that I was destined to be in from the time that little label said baby girl Hicks on it. I found peace at my other grandmother's house, at my mama's house. My mama was an artist. I could go up there and I could draw and I could do all these things that I wanted to do and that I wanted to be. You got to realize how hard that is. There were expectations. But those expectations were not who I am. They were expectations other people placed on me. It wasn't me. So how many of you have expectations placed on you that are not you? How many times do we create false expectations because we're not the Pinterest mom? Because we go to a support group looking for help, and I'm not just talking veteran support group, I'm talking any kind. But because we don't feel like we should follow that advice, we're gonna let somebody down. Because somebody else may have had a bad day and said, you need to leave your veteran. Because somebody else said, you don't deserve this. Because somebody else said, this isn't how you should raise your kids. Because somebody else said, I'm sorry, if you can't breastfeed, you're not a good mom. I didn't breastfeed either one of my kids, and I'm a great mom, they'll tell you. That's what defines us, is somebody else's expectation, and we learn to live by that expectation. And it's wrong. Sorry, Carl's coming out of the truck. You know, I did musicals. I can remember being told to every single football game that my brother played in, and went to every football game. We went to ball practice. We did all these things. And I went there because he followed the course. They didn't necessarily go to all of my play practices. They may have gone to opening night or closing night. They didn't display my artwork predominantly around, morning my friend too, they didn't display my artwork around the house because I was like, drawing, and heaven forbid, that wasn't in my predefined where I was supposed to go. It just wasn't what I was supposed to do. Then after I graduated from high school, a new panic struck. The little strip on the pregnancy test said positive. And I panicked. I can remember seeing it and sitting on the bathroom floor and crying and like, what in the name of God's earth am I going to do? I'm not married yet. Because in my life, in the life that the world had defined for me, there were very clear steps. You graduated from high school. You went to college. Oh, I went to college. I clept out of college. I failed out of college, sort of, kind of. I took my college courses on the beach because that was way better than sitting in some class learning German that I'd never have to learn, right? Then you were supposed to date this great man, this man who could provide you the income that a lifestyle you should have, right? Well, I didn't fall in love with that guy. Then there was supposed to be a wedding. And then after we had the 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch, we could bring a baby into this world. Well, by God, I screwed up every expectation sitting on that bathroom floor. I sat on the bathroom floor and I wiped out everybody else's expectation for me. Yeah, I left that guy too, Sean. I did. Okay, so what did I do? God forbid I embarrass or upset anybody in a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt. I went to the Walgreens or the Woolworths or whatever. I got a $10 wedding ring And David Phillips and I ran off to the justice of the peace, and I came back married. At least I was married and gonna have a baby. Didn't have a house. Didn't have the 3-bedroom ranch. We had nothing. But I was married and then gonna have a baby. I had to try to make it right. I had to try to measure up to that expectation that everybody else had put on me. You know, that one that we still get every day, because there's this expectation of the perfect wife, the perfect marriage, the perfect relationship, the perfect mother, the perfect everything. I failed at that expectation. All I can say is that my Nana, you know, the equivalent to Google of the baby age, showed up at my house every day. She made sure that David Scott was down for a nap when he was supposed to be. She made sure that when he could walk, his shoelaces were hung up on the clothesline. And God forbid you didn't hang the clothes up right. They had to be hung a certain way. I did that. Baby number 2 came into this world, and Christian Seth was born. And he was supposed to be a girl. Every ultrasound said he was going to be a girl. And at that brief moment when he came into this world and he was a boy, I was like, ooh, but that's not the expectation. Because, see, everybody in my family had a boy and a girl. Again, I felt like I had let the world down because the pink dresses and the little lace panties were already bought, and Christian Seth was a boy. I didn't meet the expectations that everybody else had placed on me, or not so much placed on me, that I placed on myself based on how I felt that everybody else was placing on me. That's something I've just learned to deal with. That's something I never got until I started working on this project, on this one. You know, I had a real job. My marriage ended. You know, I stayed home when I was married to him because it was the right thing to do. It was a hard choice to end that marriage. Remember, I'm still in the same town that my parents and my grandparents were in. Nobody in my family has ever been divorced except for me. Well, now, a few more, but me. I was the first. I was the first disappointment. I was the one who got divorced. And it was a hard choice. But the bruises, the addiction he went through, the night he sat there and held a knife to my throat, I still thought that was better than being the disappointment. And it wasn't until I went and I talked to actually our preacher, and I said, but I got married for better or worse. And he said, Stacy, you're not married to the guy you thought you were married to, and nobody deserves this. You have given it your all. You are not letting anybody down by not fitting into that mold. That was the first person who ever told me it was okay not to fit into the expectation mold that I had placed on myself, and that the entire world placed on me back September 1st, 1966, when the little label was put on my bassinet that said, Baby Girl Hicks. Since that time, I got married again. Great guy. Stepped in, raised those boys like it was his own. 28 years later, I decide I'm lost. I don't know who the hell I am. I've always been something to somebody else. Always. And I walked out. I left him everything except for the bed out of the spare bedroom, some really important pictures, one of them that my grandmother painted. I walked out. I left. I had been defined as something forever to everybody else. You know, when I initially married Woody, I was the Navy wife of the E3. That was great, right? Except for My dearest friend was the XO's wife. Imagine that being in the Navy. That your wife is a little old E3 is best friends with the XO of your ship's wife. That has to be great, right? That just blew things out of the thing. I didn't follow those rules either. I didn't do what was expected. And I failed my husband, and he'll tell you that. My ex-husband now, but he'll tell you that. See, in 2000, I became a first responder. I was a third-generation firefighter. I was a firefighter instructor. I was the wife, a mom, a daughter, a president of the volunteer fire department. I was a firefighter instructor. I was a board member of the church. I was chairman of festivals. In 2006, I finally got my paramedic. And one of my most prized possessions from getting my paramedic was a letter that was framed. And it says, "Who is Stacy?" And it gave me all these things that a paramedic does. And it says at the bottom, "I am a paramedic." And that was my prized possession. I finally had a definition of me that I could believe in. And understand, when I was married to Woody, I literally became Mrs. Santa Claus, y'all. I'm not kidding y'all. He is one of the top 20 in the world. But that still was not who I am. I wasn't all those things. My kids were grown. When I moved to Savannah, I was no longer a wife. My kids were grown, and they were mad at me for hurting their daddy, so I really wasn't their mommy anymore. All those titles that defined me were gone except for being a paramedic. And then I met my veteran. The one person who came into this world and loved me where I was for who I was. Not for being Linda and Lucas's daughter. He didn't know them. Not for being the cheerleader that wasn't. He didn't know them. Not for being David and Seth's mom. Hell, I wasn't talking to them. He loved me for me at where I was. I was lost. I didn't know who the hell I was. And to top it off, in January, I got sick. And January 1st was the last day I could be on an ambulance, ever. And by March, they had checked the little box that said, permanently disabled. Can never be on an ambulance again. I didn't know who I was. I had been defined as something else for so long. Every definition of me was gone. I have always been something to somebody else. I have never been Stacy for Stacy. And Carl did that for me. I hated it for a long time. Both of us had had bad marriages. Both of us said, we're never going to get married again. Both of us had said that. Well, for a while, I was his girlfriend. You know, now he is my soulmate. And I had said, I don't want to get married again. And all of a sudden, I wanted to get married. And Carl said to me, I'm not marrying you. And it was like, you shattered my heart. But that's not what he meant. What he meant was, I don't need to be married to you to love you. We don't need that title. You don't need to be a wife. You are you. You are you. And I love you. That was the hardest thing I ever had to figure out. Who am I? I'm not the sick lady. I'm not somebody with a failing liver. It doesn't define me. I'm not the caregiver of some guy with PTSD. I am the soulmate of the man that I love and cherish. And how did I have to figure that out? I had to get naked. I had to be like I was when I came into this world. I had to be naked. I had to lose everything to figure out who I was. I don't have it all. There are days we barely stay afloat. But you know what? That doesn't matter anymore. What matters is I know who I am. I don't have to answer to anybody or anybody's little realm or definition of what I want to do. I'll find myself asking Carl, hey, is that okay? And he says to me, does that make you happy? And I'm like, well, yeah, but what about you? And he said, you cannot be you if you're not happy. And all this time I'm thinking, I'm supposed to be the caregiver to the PTSD guy. But he has taught me more than I can ever imagine. I can't be good to help him through those moments if I'm not good for me. Getting naked, getting exactly like you were, that moment you came into this world where there was no predefined conception of who you were. You were naked. You were wet. You took your first breath, and you fell into a mold other people created for you. Today, last night, when I went through what I was going to talk about today, I sat in my office that has become my Zen space. And I got naked. I stopped being something for everybody else. I became me. I defined me. There's no book. There's no Dr. Spock. There's no Google. There's none of that. When we go online looking for answers to our problems, those people have not walked in our shoes. All y'all, and I see this, that you feel lost and that you needed to hear this. So did I. And I can tell you what I do that works with Carl. And I can tell you that I'm having a bad day, and I can vent that to you. But what I can tell you is, I can't tell you what to do. I can't put you in that box. I can't give you that smiley face or that sad face or that straight face. I can't define you. What we can do together as a community, as people who love each other and become loving, is we can uplift each other and we can sit there for each other and say, I've been in that place at that moment that you're in. And I'm out on the other side. We all try to define happiness. We all try to make this thing of what happiness is. We think that our life should be happy all the time. Well, let me tell you something. Without pain, there is no happiness. When you have pain and you go through pain and you get through pain, you're a survivor. You're stronger. You're tougher than ever before. Stop being someone else. Being someone for someone else. Be you for you. Get out of your little box that everybody else has placed you in. Get naked. Get real. Stop letting people define you, because when you sit there by yourself, and I know we've all heard this, be still and listen. Get rid of all your trappings. Be still and listen. And that voice you're hearing is you. When you get rid of everything else, that voice you're hearing is you. And you matter. And you are not a number. Courtney, baby, I didn't know where to start either. I've cried. I've thrown things. I've slammed pictures around. I'll be honest, I've tried to kill myself 3 times.
Everyone has their hair in
3 times.
It's not that bad.
So just let me tell you, you're not going to do this overnight. It's never going to happen overnight. It took you a long time to get to where you are. It's going to take you a long time to completely find you. And as the world evolves every single day and things come and go in your life, it's going to change who you are. We are a sum of all of our past experiences, not a definition. We are a sum of all of our past experiences. Good, bad, ugly, painful, happy, loving. We are a sum of all of those. So today, just start to find you. It's not that tough. It's very hard. I can say it's easy. It's not. It's tough. But for the first time in my life, I am not being ugly when I say this. I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks of me. I am not living up to anybody's expectation of me. Because instead of disappointing everybody else, I ended up disappointing me. So I'm not being ugly to people, but I am not letting anybody else define me again. I am taking ownership of me for the first time in 54 years. I am not baby girl Hicks. I am not Linda and Lucas's daughter. Those are all roles I have. But I am Stacy. My life matters, and it matters to me. And I'm going to live it on my terms. And it's going to be hard, and it's going to be painful, and there's going to be tearful moments. But I can do this. You can do this. We are a community. Together, we can do anything. Just don't let other people tell you who to be. I have no idea how late this thing went, because I'm not sitting in my office doing this. I'm sitting in the car and my clock is on my phone. I love you women. I am so blessed that you guys are in my life. You're right, Courtney. We have high expectations of ourselves, and it's actually the expectations of others. That is dead on perfect. But you know what? Starting today, you start setting your own expectations of you. Who gives a damn if your dishes aren't done? Who gives a damn if you don't make your bed in the morning? If you get to spend 10 extra minutes playing with your kids before they go to school, it's worth it. I'm Stacy. We are Loving My Veteran. As soon as I get home, so it will be this afternoon, this will probably get posted to the other groups. I will get it on the YouTube channel. The rest of the videos should start going. And tomorrow, this won't be live. It'll be recorded because I have an 8 o'clock doctor's appointment at Mayo. So, if I'm done at 8, we'll do it live by 9. If not, it'll be the recorded version. Sorry. But I love you people. Have a blessed day. Be the best you can be for yourself. And everything else will fall into place. Have a great day. Bye.